Chris here, and welcome to my channel, and welcome to this week's reading vlog. It's officially June, so happy Pride to everybody. It means that I will be reading tons of queer books, I have a ton on my TBR, but also it's the Queer Lit Readathon, so I have 16 books that are all queer and fit various prompts. If you would like to see what books I'm reading for that and what prompts they fulfill, I'll link my TBR video in the cards above. I also, at the very last minute, decided to take part in the Amazing Readathon. We'll see if this was a good idea or not, but I am on Team Fantasy. So we have had our first prompt drop, and the book I'm going to be reading for that is The Curse of Eelgrass Bog. This does happen to be one of my Queer Lit Readathon books. That was Cielo, if you heard noises behind the camera. I'm only a couple chapters in, so I don't know much about this yet. So it fulfills the prompt for our Toronto leg. We need to read a book that we don't own, that we got from like a gift or a little free library or our local library, and I have taken this out of the library. So I will be reading this. It is also a fantasy, so I will get extra points for my team because I'm reading my team's genre. And like I said, yeah, I don't know much about this yet, but we'll see how it goes. And then the other book that I'm in the middle of that I'm rolling over for May is The Bookshop of Dust and Dreams. This is a historical fiction fantasy that follows a young girl named Poppy who lives in 1944 and owns this magical bookstore that is able to reach people throughout time, 100 years into the past and 100 years into the future, I believe. And her father is ill and ends up in the hospital. And Poppy and her older brother are kind of running the bookstore, but her older brother is dealing with the fact that his best friend just died in the war, and he wants to use the bookshop to save his best friend, even though that's against the rules. And with her father and mother being out of commission because her dad's ill, Poppy is the only one standing in the way of her brother using the store to try to save his friend, even though that is against the rules. So it's a lot heavier than I thought it was going to be, but I am enjoying it and look forward to finishing it in the next couple days or so. Other than that, I don't know what I'm going to be reading. It's going to be a lot of mood reading, given that there are sightseeing prompts that I'm going to try to fulfill and be strategic about that. And then, of course, whenever the next travel prompt drops, I have to find a book on my TBR that's going to fulfill that, or at least hopefully is on my Cielo. She's so helpful, y'all. Hopefully finding a book that's on my TBR that will fulfill that prompt as she climbs around the camera again. I'm really sorry about that, but you know how she is. Anywho, those are my plans for this week, is to try to work through some of my Queer Lit Readathon TBR, some of my Phase 10 TBR, and see how much I can get read in the month of June. But yeah, I think I'm going to go read. The cats are all starting to swarm and want attention, so I think that's my cue to hop off of here and go pay attention to them. And I will try to check in a few days and give you an update on how I'm doing. So we have just had our next travel prompt drop, so I thought I should update you on how I did for the first leg of the race in Toronto. So first up, I read Curse of the Eelgrass Bog. This was for my travel prompt, and I needed to read a book I didn't own. This is a library book, so it was pretty simple. I gave this 3.5 stars. In this book, we're following Cass, who lives at the Unnatural History Museum. Her best friend is a shrunken head named Jim, and she really loves searching for like skeletons and megafauna. And one day she meets a girl named Lilu who is very interested in the Eelgrass Bog, and she's been warned to stay away from the Eelgrass Bog, but Lilu wants to check it out for reasons that Cass isn't sure of at first, and so they go to check out the bog and find some very, very surprising things. I gave this 3.5 stars. It was not my favorite. There were definitely things I enjoyed about it. I liked some of the wondering what was going on with Cass, because you could tell that something was up with her home life and that things didn't seem quite right. I really loved the Shrunken Head Jim. I thought he was a fun character. I liked Lilu and Cass's relationship. It felt very authentic to the way things would happen for two kids their age, and developing this relationship because they didn't know each other before Lilu stopped by Cass's home because it's the Unnatural History Museum. I just felt like I had put too many things together too quickly. And I think that brought my rating down because I was spot on throughout the book and there weren't really many twists and turns that surprised me. So while it wasn't a bad book, it wasn't my favorite. It was also spooky-ish because of some of the things that happened. But yeah, it just didn't click with me in all the ways I wanted it to. And like I said, I figured some things out too quickly, which took away some of the suspense of putting the pieces together. So I enjoyed it, but it wasn't my favorite, which meant then I could go sightseeing. So first up, I read Cat Crew, which is the second book in the Dog Squad series. And this follows a dog named Fred, who in the first book ends up becoming a replacement for a dog named Duke on Dog Squad because he looks just like him and Duke got injured. And we see things from his point of view as he's trying to fit into this TV show and production life, and he is a very, very different dog than Duke and also kind of wants to be a hero in real life. And this one involves some new cat friends of theirs. So I ended up giving this one 3.5 stars as well. I think that's right around what I gave the first one, and this one was no different. It is definitely a fun and interesting story. The villain in this one, like the thing that Fred needs to be a hero against, is definitely a nasty piece of work. And she infuriated me as an adult, and because of my affinity for cats, she'd have infuriated me as a kid too. So I thought that was really well done because I could see how that would be the type of villain that Fred and his friends would need to thwart. This is a fine little middle grade series. It's another one that's not necessarily my favorite, but it's not bad, and I'm now officially caught up on it. So that is also kind of cool. It also has some really cool illustrations throughout, and I really like the way the audiobooks are done. So if you're looking for a good, quick, middle grade series to listen to on audiobook, I would recommend this one. Then we ended up getting Detour, and our Detour prompt was to post a picture of your current read with your pet. And if you didn't have pet, you could use like a rock or a plant or a human or whatever, or a stuffed animal. And I'll pop the picture up here that I used, and you can see in that picture that my current read was green. So I read green. I gave this 4 stars. I didn't like this as much as Melissa and Rick, which are set in the same universe because Green goes to school with Melissa and Rick. In this one, we're following Green, who uses they, them pronouns, and ends up with a crush on a classmate, but isn't sure that the classmate is interested in them, and is trying to navigate figuring that out, while also dealing with the fact that the school is putting on their yearly play, and being unsure about whether they want to be involved, but also looking at the play and going, why does everything kind of have to be so gendered? Like, where would I fit in this play? And it is interesting to see how progressive Green's school is, because they have like a Rainbow Spectrum Club where they really do challenge the idea of, well, what if a boy wanted to play Dorothy? Or what if a girl wanted to be the Tin Man? Or what if somebody like Green, who uses they, them pronouns, wanted to be involved? And how would you make, because they're doing the Wizard of Oz, I should mention that, how would you make the Wizard of Oz inclusive for everyone? And it is really interesting to see that. It is interesting to see Green navigate the trials and tribulations of being a preteen and growing up and first crushes and all of that kind of stuff. So I thought that was well done. I think this is one where I just wanted more. There was such interesting things going on with Green in their journey that I wanted more. I wanted to know more about their home life. I wanted to know more about where they chose their name. Like, why did they go with Green? What inspired that? That would have been kind of cool to see and to understand a little bit more about Green's background. And Like I said, Green is going through some stuff in this one, and it would have been interesting if we could have dived into that a little bit more. So I think the reason this gets 4 stars is because I was really enjoying it. I just wanted more, and I didn't get it. Then I picked up The Ministry of Time. So I got to page 114, and I decided to DNF this. And the reason is I was bored. Bored. This follows a woman who does not have a name. We don't find out her name. And she is living in a slightly distant future from where we are now. And they have developed a way to bring people through time. And she ends up with Commander Gore, who was from 1847. And he was on an Arctic mission, I think. And his crew was doomed to die. So they took him through time because if he's already going to be dead, then he won't be missed. And we're seeing how Commander Gore is adjusting to life in the future, and our main character is basically his kind of handler, his bridge, the person that is helping him adjust to the future. But I just didn't care. We're just watching their life, and it just felt kind of flat and boring, and it feels like they're hinting that there is some things going on with the agency that's doing this, but I just don't care. I stopped caring about Commander Gore and our main character and what was going on, and like I said, I was bored. It was putting me to sleep, and I just went, there's so many other books I could be reading. So why don't I try reading one of them? So I decided to DNF this because it just wasn't clicking for me. So then I picked up The Tainted Cup, and I'm on page 160. This is a mystery that has fantastical elements, and we're following Din. And he is magically altered in a way that allows him to recall things. He's called an engraver. So he can look at, say, a crime scene and use scent to trigger everything that happened at the crime scene. And he has this superior who's a bit odd and is having to deal with that when this really odd murder happens. And it is basically a guy who had a tree grow through his body, and that is even strange for this particular land that they're living in. And some things have started to happen that are requiring more of his superior's attention, but she's very odd and eccentric, and so now he's got to try to manage that. I'm enjoying it. So far, it feels high 3, low 4 right now, but we'll see how it goes. And then the other book I've started is Cosplay Killer. And this follows a couple who do this podcast. And one of them is a firefighter and he is autistic. And the other one is a former EMT who is struggling and has kind of stopped being an EMT after he lost a patient. And the former EMT is getting these emails suggesting that he maybe murdered somebody, the patient that he lost. And they go to a Comic-Con type thing, and one of their friends ends up dead. So I think they're going to end up investigating that. It's an ebook, so it's really hard for me. I can't remember their names off the top of my head right now, but I also started that one. So that is where I'm at. I did most of that yesterday, though, because it is June 3rd, and today was a mess. So yesterday evening, Cielo was in my doorway, and she made a weird sound and started drooling. And I was watching it because I was going, well, maybe she ate some weird bug, because we've had some bugs in the house and the cats are hunting them. And I was going, you get a yicky flavor in your mouth, or maybe she's gotten a leg stuck in the back of her throat or something, no big deal. But she was still drooling this morning. So we had called the vet to find out what we were going to do, and they were busy. So the receptionist took down a note and was going to get back to us when the vet had a minute. And then I was sitting in my room and I heard a deep meow, which is something Stormy does when he's about to puke. So I went to go check, and it was Cielo again. And she was sitting on the bookcase in the spare bedroom with her head tilted like this and was kind of going, sorry for the weird facials, but do you see what I mean? She was trying to get something out of her mouth and was just acting all off. So me and my mom trapped her in the bathroom and tried to look in her mouth to see if maybe she had something caught that we could just in her teeth or something. And she just was all scrunched up and would not let us anywhere near her mouth. So my mom just tossed her in the cat carrier and brought her to the vet. And come to find out, she has some very nasty teeth that need to come out. So she is currently at the vet and will be getting those out in the morning. So I have not done much reading today because obviously my brain was all over the place and elsewhere. Hopefully she's going to be okay, and she should be back home tomorrow, so I should be able to update you in this vlog and let you know how she's doing. But that definitely made things very, very stressful. On top of that, Buenos Aires. That's where we're headed next from Toronto, and our prompt is all about tango, so we need to read a dual POV. The problem is that we came in last. So we have to pick 6 books with a dual POV, and then like roll a die to determine which one we were going to read. And that was a lot harder than I thought it was going to be, because I have a lot of books that are 1 POV, and I have a lot of books that are like multi POV, but very few that are 2. So I did some digging, and I managed to find 6 books that I would be willing to read that have dual POV. So the first book is Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez. My mom just recently read this. She really enjoyed it. She's already reading the second one. And I'm like, well, that's a romance. It's got 2 POVs. Hopefully I will enjoy it. So that's going to be if I roll a 1. If I roll a 2, we're going to go with One Night in Heartswood, which is a queer romance that is on my TBR. If we roll a 3, I'm going to continue Cosplay Killer, because you can use books that you're partway through. If I roll a 4, I'm going to read Honeymead Murder, which is also by Dahlia Donovan and seems to be dual POV. If I roll a 5, I'll read Linus and Etta Could Use a Win, because these 2 are going to have dual POVs. Like, these are going to be our POVs. It's a middle grade contemporary. And then if I roll a 6, I'm going to read We Could Be So Good, which is a queer romance that has dual POVs and was on my TBR. So I did have to go off TBR for this, but I'm hoping that maybe I'll get lucky and it'll be one of the books that I need. So I've got a roller here. Whoops, we don't want a 4. We're gonna go with a 6, and I got a 5. So I believe that was Linus and Etta Could Use a Win. So this is quick. So even though this wasn't on my TBR, at least it is a quicker book, and hopefully I can get through it. So this is what I will be reading for the Buenos Aires travel leg of the Amazing Readathon. So I will be back in a few days to hopefully update you when the next city drops. Officially the 8th, which means it is time to wrap up the first vlog of June, which is just mind-blowing. This has been a very, very rough week. I don't remember exactly when I checked in with you last, so I'm going to give you an update on Cielo. I think I mentioned that stuff was going on with Cielo. So she had to have a couple of her teeth removed, and everything went well. She is back home. She is doing well. She does not like her medicine. She gets very, very grumpy when I have to shoot the medicine into her mouth. She hates every second of it, but she seems to be doing well otherwise, and we're just very happy that she's home and that she's okay. And she wanted to show you herself, so here she is. Easy Cielo. You can see she's missing a little bit of fur. And she's missing some teeth. Not that you can see that, but she's doing well. It is so relieving to have her in here because it was so weird filming and chatting with you guys and her not being here. Like, so incredibly weird. So having her back is just amazing, even if she is a giant pain in the butt when I'm trying to film. I've missed sprinting with you all this week. I don't know when exactly you're going to see this because I'm a bit behind in editing because I've been all over the place because of Cielo. This is literally the first time she's been in my room like this since she got home. So this is actually kind of relieving because she's been acting a little odd. But it's nice to see that she's still like, this is my show and my vlog and my channel. And I know y'all were worried about me, so here I am. So it is very good to have her back. Hopefully I'll be able to sprint soon so y'all can see her on sprints, because like I said, I don't know when exactly this is going to go out because I've been a bit all over the place. It's been very hard to focus on anything, and it just seems like this has been the week that where something could go wrong, it has. So we're going to run you through what else I've read. So I think last time I talked to you, I mentioned that we're now headed to Buenos Aires, and I think that's why I checked in, because Buenos Aires dropped. And because my team was in last place, we had to pick a dual perspective book by random chance, and I got Linus and Etta Could Use a Win. I gave this 4.5 stars. This was a really good middle grade. It took me a second to get into, otherwise it would have gotten 5. Apologies for the camera angle change. She knocked the camera on the floor. Guys, she's so helpful, but isn't it great that she's back being helpful? No. Stay away from the camera. So Linus came out as trans last year and is looking forward to be going to a new school where nobody seems to know that yet, so that he can kind of have a fresh start and not constantly having to deal with people trying to get his pronouns right and trying to get his name right and just all of the drama that comes along with that transition. And once there, he meets a girl named Etta, and Etta has been going through some stuff. She had a really bad friend breakup over the summer and just wants to focus on getting into this alternative high school, and ends up making a bet with the ex-friend that she can get Linus elected class president, and things kind of spiral from there, given that, you know, Linus isn't necessarily into being the class president, and Etta ends up really coming to care for Linus and worries that if Linus finds out, it's going to cost her their friendship. So I really enjoyed this one. I thought it was really well done how we dealt with Linus and seeing things from his POV of being in a new school where he kind of got to start over, but also being honest about some of the issues he was still facing with being trans in his personal life. And getting to kind of see his journey throughout this book. I liked seeing Etta and her struggles because she was just trying to figure out how to survive a summer that had kind of gone wrong and go back to school and not be sure how she was going to deal with that. And like I said, meeting Linus, creating this friendship, but knowing that there is a bet involved that could come to bite her in the butt. I got really invested in the story and really loved the growth of both characters because their friendship causes both Linus and Etta to grow. And it was really beautiful to watch their friendship bloom and how it affected each one of them and what it meant to each one of them. So I quite enjoyed this book and thought it was a really good look at a middle grade student who has transitioned socially and how they are navigating that and some of the pitfalls they could find and how that mentally plays into their life and some of the choices that they may or may not make. So I really, really enjoyed this. This was another amazing book by Carolyn Huntoon, because I've read Skating on Mars, I think, or Skating by Mars, or Skating with Mars. And of course it's not going to say, is it? I'm checking the, no, it does not look like it does. But I have definitely read, I think it was like Skating on Mars by Carolyn Huntoon, and I really enjoyed that. So this was another good addition to their collection of works, which meant I could then transition to sightseeing because I was in the middle of a bunch of books and hopefully finish one, and I transitioned to Verses and Vengeance, which is the next book in the Magical Bookshop mystery series. And I gave this 4.25 stars. This follows Violet, who in the first book gets a call from her grandma Daisy that she needs to come home. And she hasn't been back to her hometown in a long time. She gets there, realizes that Grandma Daisy kind of conned her, and part of the reason Grandma Daisy cons her is because they have a magical bookshop and Violet needs to take over as caretaker, and Violet isn't exactly thrilled about that because she doesn't want to stay in their hometown. And when Grandma Daisy in the first book is accused of murder, she ends up sticking around and kind of falls back in love with the town and the bookshop and decides to stay. In this one, there's a bike race going on, and during the bike race, somebody turns up dead. And it does have connections to some of the other books, so I don't want to say too much more, but Violet obviously gets involved, and we get to see her kind of investigating this murder. And there's some personal stuff going on with Violet that I thought was really interesting in this one too, which is why it gets 4.25 stars, because I really liked some of that aspect and how that kind of factored into everything else that was going on. I really, really enjoy this series. I love seeing how the bookshop puts books in front of her to help her solve the murder mysteries that are going on. And it's just been interesting to learn more about the bookshop and the magic and the history of how this bookshop came to be. So we get some of that in this one too. And I just really enjoyed this one and kind of flew through it. And yeah, it's just another really great addition to the series that I really enjoyed. Then we are now in Berlin, or headed to Berlin, because the third city dropped. And that's this, when you hear about what else I've been doing, you're going to see why I've been a little off this week. So, the prompt for Berlin is to have movement in the title. So I'm reading No One Leaves the Castle. I'm about halfway through, and this is a middle grade fantastical mystery, and we're following the Lilac. And they're a bounty hunter, though not necessarily a very good one. And they're young. They're like 14? 12? 14? 13? Somewhere in that range. And she's out there with her best friend Netta, who's a bard, creating songs about the Lilac's adventures. And she ends up looking for a priceless artifact that has gone missing from the home of famed monster hunter Baron Angbar. But when they get to his castle and meet his family, servants, and guests, she begins to wonder if it's more trouble than it's worth. And then a dead body is discovered and the castle gets locked down so nobody can leave. So she's now at this castle with this group of people who are not exactly the greatest group of people. And it's turned from a missing artifact into a murder. But she feels like if she can solve this could really kickstart her career. So, like I said, we're about halfway through. This is feeling kind of average. I'm not really connecting with the characters or the mystery per se. So we'll see how it goes. But I'm going to mention that my headspace hasn't been exactly great. So some of this could absolutely 100% be me and not the books, and have something to do with my inability to concentrate, because that brings me to the Tainted Cup. I did finish this. I can't log it yet. I will be logging it for a sightseeing prompt, but I finished it last night before bed, and I wasn't on my computer, so I couldn't log it. And when I woke up this morning, the prompt had dropped. She's back, y'all. I have to wait for my Berlin book to be finished before I can log any more sightseeing prompts. And this is getting 4 stars. And this follows, is his name Din? Yeah, Din, who is an engraver, which means he has the ability to take in a scene and engrave it in his mind by using a scent to help it solidify, and then he can recall everything that he saw there. And there is a really weird murder that happens with a tree, and he's kind of an apprentice to this detective and starts looking into it for the detective, and it leads to a lot of things they weren't expecting to find, because it seems that there is more going on than just this one murder. And they live in an empire where contagions abound and the blood of the Leviathans works strange magical changes. It's a death both terrifying and impossible. So there's that going on as well, because they have like the borders of this empire that are being threatened at the same time as they're trying to investigate this really weird murder they've kind of stumbled across, and the fact that it's seeming to go deeper than they thought it was at first glance. And like I said, I gave this 4 stars, but I really struggled to stay into it, and I think that was a me thing, because it was heavier. Well, not heavier, but like more complicated than I wanted to be reading. I wanted like cozy mysteries or like middle grade series that I'm already reading, and this is overdue from the library, so I had no choice but to read it when I did. So it would be interesting to reread it at some point and see, like maybe before book 2 comes out, because this is a series, to see if my perspective on things changes when I'm in a different headspace. Because I enjoyed learning about the magic and seeing how an engraver works. I wasn't super invested in the mystery, but I think that was more of a me thing, of me not being able to retain anything because my brain was all over the place. And I enjoy Robert Jackson Bennett's writing style, so I was definitely into that. I think a lot of my issues with this book were a me thing and a timing thing, so I really liked how it ended, which bumped it up to the 4 stars because it was in the 3-star range. But like having that ending be the way it was made me very intrigued, and I was in a much better headspace to read the last little bit because I was a little bit more relaxed. So like I said, I think this is something that might get higher upon a reread. So take that into account when you're listening to me talk about it, that if it sounds interesting, you should probably check it out, because my 4-star might not be completely accurate. Then I believe I told you I was reading Cosplay Killer. I have not gone back to that yet, but I did want to mention that I know it's still there, but it's an ebook, so I tend not to pick it up, and it's sad because it's what I'm into right now. I made a little bit of progress in Takeover, Hitler's Final Rise to Power, which does not sound like something I would want to be reading right now, except for the fact that it's overdue from the library. Are you seeing a theme? So I'm on page 50. I ended up getting the audiobook for this because I needed help focusing. And there are like German words in here and German names that like I've never heard of before. So it's helping me with pronunciation, because that would slow me down, especially when I'm struggling to concentrate. And this is basically a nonfiction that is going to be a dramatic recounting of the 6 critical months before Hitler assumed power, when the Nazi leader teetered between triumph and ruin. So I don't really have much to say about it because I only just started it, but we're going to see how it goes. And it works really, really well because there are footnotes in here. And one of the sightseeing prompts is to read a book with footnotes. So that'll be perfect for this one. And then the last book I've made some progress in is Knife of Dreams, because I have to go back to frickin' Wheel of Time. I forgot what it was called, y'all. I'm not tired. I'm on page 47. I only listened to this for a little while. But I have indeed started it. I'm hoping that it'll work for my 4th city, and I can get a buttload of points for having read this book, because If I Fly is let's see, 726 pages, and I would be able to double that. So we're hoping that the timing will work so that I can use this as my next city prompt, but who knows. I have the audiobook, I think, for like 7 or 8 more days, so I really need to get on this. So I have an entire week, so I might have 2 cities that I could use, but we'll see. She has left me all marked up. Jeez Louise. But yeah, I'm currently in the midst of 4 books, I think. I think it's just, no, 5 books. Because I have this that I rolled over from May that I will need to get back to, even if I can't claim the points for it. So hopefully I will finish some good books in the next week, and I will get my mojo back, because it has been a very, very rough week, and my head has just been all over the place. So fingers crossed that next week goes better. But that's going to be all for this vlog. All of my social media is linked in the description below if you'd like to come chat with me. If you've made it this far in the video, leave me black cat emojis in honor of CLO. Like this video and subscribe to my channel, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye!